This is Clermont. Also known as the Gem of the Hills or the Choice of Champions, it's called that because of the National Training Center gym we have that Olympic-level athletes frequently use to train. This city currently houses over 28,000 people, and new people are constantly flowing into the city with all of the housing construction that is basically always going on. Less than a decade ago, we got our first movie theater, and since then, new stores and buildings have been popping up practically overnight. We have almost every store, restaurant, or fast food place that you can think of, and it's likely that if we don't have it here, it's probably only a half-hour drive west to Winter Garden. Usually, when people ask me where I'm from, I say, right by Orlando and not far from Disney. It's actually less than an hour drive to both. However, what you may not know is that from around 1956, if people wanted something to do in Central Florida, Clermont was the place to go, besides Cypress Gardens and Silver Springs. People would come to Clermont to visit the Citrus Tower and its acres of orange groves. This is a postcard circa the 1970s, maybe even earlier, highlighting both of these tourist sites. And from the top of the tower, which is 22 stories high, this was the view in 1983 of the orange groves and US 27, which currently travels over 1,300 miles from Miami to Fort Wayne, Indiana. Since my family and I have lived here for almost 16 years, we've seen the landscape around us change and reform dramatically. The Citrus Tower and its groves are a perfect example of that. The tower itself has gone through quite a number of paint jobs. Here's a picture of my sisters and I at the top of the tower in 2004 and the surrounding land. Already the groves have diminished significantly and buildings are beginning to sprout up. I remember a time before that Publix was even there. Compared to now, a week or so ago, this is what the land looks like. What was once just an empty lot is now an entire section of stores and restaurants. You can barely even see my neighborhood from the tower now that all the trees have grown in. The only thing left of the groves is a bit by my neighborhood, and those trees haven't been properly maintained in years. The road is now 3 lanes and one of the busiest roads in the whole city. Being on US 27 or Highway 50 is not exactly a pleasant place to be during rush hour. There are housing developments everywhere you look, as well as some of our lakes. Even in just comparing the horizons from 2004 to now, you can see just how many new buildings there are that line the sky. And most of the construction is pretty recent. My high school, which you can see in the distance, was only built 7 years ago. And the college that I went to before UCF that my sister currently goes to now was only built in 1999, and the library attached to it was built in 2007. My own neighborhood has changed. Here are some pictures from the year we moved to our house, with some of our neighbors' houses still being built in the background. Taking a picture from that same spot now shows one of the obvious differences. The trees are much bigger, but it also shows new houses, new families, new lives that didn't exist 16 years ago. Many people have moved in and out of our neighborhood over the years, and we are practically one of the only families who have been there since the beginning and have gotten to see all of the changes that are taking place in our city. One of the things Clermont is famous for is the waterfront park off of Lake Mineola that annually houses Pig on the Pond. It has a bike trail, basketball court, playset, splash pad, and plenty of room for parties. This is what it looked like about 13 to 14 years ago. And this is what that exact spot looks like today. The playset still exists, it was just moved to make room for the new splash pad that gets pretty heavy traffic in the summer. Here's where the playset is now. Even the lake itself looks a bit different from these videos taken around 2004 to now. Another well-loved park in Clermont is Hancock Park. My family and I spent a lot of time there, whether it was for softball games or birthday parties.
This is Danielle's last birthday. She's only going to be 7 from now on. Hi, Naya.
You're not getting any older, right?
Next year you'll be 7 too.
It's interesting to think that besides my sisters and my friend Leah's younger siblings, everyone in this video is at least 20 years old now.
I think the wind is going to be the one.
Hold the lid to the box up, just like that.
Guys, look through the window there.
Right. Now, we might just be doing a pseudo blowing out the candles.
While most of this now is still the same, it is lacking in that openness with the black fences that keep you from getting straight to the park without going through the softball fields first, as I found out the hard way while trying to film. What Clermont doesn't have in beaches, we make up for in golf courses. A lot of snowbirds who come down around here spend their time at golf courses at places like Kings Ridge, or this golf course that my sisters and I went to in 2004 for an Easter egg hunt. And here's what that golf course looks like now. Even though it is getting increasingly harder to go to any store or restaurant without seeing someone I went to high school or college with, I still love Clermont, with its golf courses, stores, lakes, car dealerships, and many, many houses. We may not have the same orange groves we did back in the 1980s, and the landscape may have changed, but Clermont is still a very beautiful place to live. And one day I'll be curious to see what kind of changes will happen in the next 10 years, especially seeing how much has happened so far. Maybe one day we'll be the next Orlando.